guys, hope everyone's doing well. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Pretty cold here, I have to say. It's a couple of degrees warmer yesterday and it was pretty nice, but it's cold today. As well as the cold, we've got a wind, I think, which is making it feel colder. So I'm wrapped up very warm. My house is cold in winter, boiling hot in summer. There's like about 3 days in the year when it's of a decent temperature. But I'm British. I complain about every weather pattern I complain about. Anyway, I've got my trigger warning on, and I'm going to keep my trigger warning on because this is gruesome. Fox News Digital have put out a short news piece and a write-up of what Kaylee's dad's been saying about the injuries on Kaylee. So we're going to get into that. It is pretty gruesome, but it's out there now, so I'm going to talk about it. Let's say a few hellos whilst people are coming in. Cookie Doodle. Now, you're one of the cool people who put a 3 instead of an E. So I've been calling you Cook 13 Doodle, like Cook 13 Doodle Dogs. Thought it was a bit strange, but I get it now. So you're Cookie Doodle. I get you. Mikey, hello. James, Holly, new member, finally. Welcome to the Secret Agents Club, Holly. Worcestershire Sauce, Priscilla from East Idaho. ASMR fan, Miss Pumba, Jeffrey, Debbie, Camelot, Juju. Yep, you finally made a live. Cool gamer. Stay at home mom detective. Casey, Rain, Bebop, Bland, Breel. Blah, blah, blah. That's a tongue twisting name. Bland Breel. August Moon, Mama Styles, Maureen, Vegan Firefly, Jodie, Firstly Angel, Eileen, and people coming in. So welcome everybody. Welcome. How cold? I don't know what the temperature is. I think about -5 Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. But it's the wind that's making it feel colder. Because it was -5 the other day and it didn't feel this cold. But it's the wind. So there's that. Now, I was going to come live later because there'd been some rumblings about a press conference later on. The news on the Twitter streets was that there was going to be a press conference at 11 p.m. my time. So whatever that would be in Idaho. But it would be 11 p.m. my time. But it doesn't appear that there is going to be a press conference. There is going to be an update. But they've been doing updates every day. They didn't do one yesterday, but they've been doing daily updates on their Facebook. So I don't know why they announced that they're going to do an update today. I don't know where the time came from. But if I just show you what Nancy Liu, who's she's a News Nation reporter. She's been standing in for Brian Entin. Brian Entin went home for the weekend. So she's been standing in for him. And she's posted, Moscow, please tell me, no new updates today, but they are planning one for tomorrow. So obviously she posted this yesterday. I asked if this means new info, told plan to be an update on the investigation. And then she posted, and this was today, 3:36, so about an hour ago, my time. The Moscow police update today will not be a news conference. A public information officer is doing interviews. So I don't know what that means. I don't know whether that's going to be live interviews. I don't think it is. I think they're just going to be posting some interviews. I don't know. But Brian Entin's back today, so he's going to have more information later. So this person seems to think that it's going to be posted out like any other press release. I don't know. So there isn't going to be a press conference that well, according to Nancy Liu. So I decided just to come on earlier and not stay up till 11 p.m. and wait to do a live then. 5C is 41. It's -5, Robert. Oh, -5 is 23, F. Okay. Yeah, well. Okay, so let's share this. So this is on Fox News Digital. Idaho murders. Father of slain victim says she had big open wounds and calls the police cowards. So this is pretty grim. This has just come out, 10:54 Eastern. So there's a little news piece here, which I'll play. I haven't actually listened to this, but let's play this and then I'll read the article. But big open wounds. Big open wounds. Have the parents had the autopsy reports I thought they had, which would explain why Dad knows so much? I've speculated that they must have them by now, yeah. But I can't verify that for sure. But I talked about that the other day in a video, that you would think that they'd have the autopsy reports by now. Anyway, let's play this news piece by Fox News. You gonna play or not?
3 weeks after his daughter and 3 roommates were murdered in Idaho, Father Stephen Gonsalves is now making some potentially bombshell revelations. He tells Fox that although the coroner says all 4 victims were stabbed, he doesn't think that his daughter Kaylee and her best friend died in the same way. He also says he believes both of them were targeted. Police have not named a suspect, announced any motive for the...
I don't know whether this is new news, actually, because that's not what this report is saying, but let's carry on anyway. This might be just an old clip that they've put on here. Bombshell revelations. Oh, I'm just going to read it. I'm just going to read it because this is grim. So the father of slain University of Idaho student Kaylee Gonsalves told Fox News Digital that the victims had big open gouges that were clearly the work of a sadistic male, and called police cowards for not sharing more with the public. Steve Gonsalves said he asked the coroner, Kathy Mabot, how many times the victims were stabbed. And she said, "Sir, I don't think stabs is the right word. It was like tears, like this was a strong weapon, not like a stab." Now, the coroner, when she did that interview, which was very early on, she said, I should find that interview because I just remember it so clearly. She said the fatal wounds were stabs to the upper body. Isn't that what she said? What weapon was it? I don't know. All we know that it was a knife. They're looking for a fixed blade knife, like a K-bar style knife. Slashing, yeah. Yeah. She said these were big open gouges. She said it was quick. These weren't something where you were going to be able to call 911. They were not going to slowly bleed out, he said. Now, obviously, this is according to Steve Gonsalves, who spoke to the coroner, and this is being reported by Fox News. So we're not seeing this directly from the coroner's mouth. What the coroner said was that they were stabbed. And it brings up a new level. If this is true, for me, this brings up a new level of insight. That if you're going to go in cool and calm and just wanting to dispatch people as quickly as possible, then you're going to do it in in a very controlled way, assuming that they don't fight back. But I think what we're beginning to see is that these people weren't asleep. These people were fighting, and therefore there was slashing rather than stabbing, because you've got to get very close to somebody to stab them, especially in a really controlled way. So I've said that this has all the hallmarks of a hate crime, and I stand by that. I think this was a hate crime, but slashing rather than stabbing. Trigger warning. I've said this a number of times now, that if you stab somebody with a blade that's long enough, stab them in the chest, they're going to die, because it goes through the chest into the lungs, and they're going to die very quickly, and they're not going to be able to scream. They're going to drown in their own blood. If you stab them in the throat, likewise, very quick. But if you're slashing them, now you could slash them across the throat. You could literally slash them across the throat, and it would take one slash. So when he asked how many stab wounds there were, and she said they've got big open gouges, I want to know how many. Because if there's just one gouge, like one slash to the neck, then they're dead. They're not going anywhere. They're not calling 911. They're not screaming. They're going to die very quickly. So if this killer went in and just slashed them all in the neck, literally cut their throats, then that is very quick and it's very controlled, and this guy knew what he was doing. But when you talk about multiple gouges, then that has a different level of insight. I'm sorry, no scrubs. I did say I've got trigger warning in my title. I've got trigger warning on the screen. It's horrible. It's really horrible, but it's out there. It's out there. We can't ignore this. This is a level of detail that I think, honestly, Steve perhaps shouldn't be putting out, but he's angry. So, I don't know. Let's carry on. So Kaylee, her best friend Maddie, Xana, and her boyfriend Ethan were slaughtered in the early hours of November 13th in rent home near campus. Moscow police, working with the FBI and Idaho police, have yet to publicly name a suspect or recover the fixed blade knife they believe was used in the horrific attack that has left a small college town reeling from grief. So unless law enforcement tell us otherwise, then I'm going to assume that the weapon was a fixed blade knife, similar to a K-bar style knife. But it could be something else. It could be more like a sword, or something that's longer. It's just gruesome. So he's already told us, this a few days ago, that his daughter's injuries definitely did not match Maddie's wounds. They may have individually died from the exact same thing, being stabbed, but there was more details, he added. They're not even close to matching. So he, up to now, and again, this is a machete, yeah. Oh, an axe. Oh, God, good Lord. I think you'd definitely tell if it was an axe, compared to a machete, a sword, or a K-bar style knife. An axe, it would have characteristically different wounds, I think. But something like a machete that's the type of weapon where slashing is the thing. But up to this article coming out, Steve has also talked about stabbing. So the other question I have is, when did he talk to the coroner? So is this the details that he's been holding back? Has he spoken to the coroner early on? because she did come out early on. So she did come out early on to say that these were the fatal wounds were stabs to the chest. But then Steve also talked about them being stabbed. But a few days ago, he came out and he said the injuries did not match between Maddie and Kaylee. So I and others have been saying, well, if Kaylee was awake, because they were sleeping in the same room, if Maddie was killed first and she was asleep, so the killer was able to sneak in, kill Maddie, that surely would wake up Kaylee, and the injuries would be different simply because Kaylee was awake. So, you know, she'd have those extra few seconds to be able to, you know, sit up, try to get away, or try to defend Maddie, defend herself, obviously. She'd have that extra few seconds to do that. So if you think about that, it makes sense that the injuries are going to be different. The injuries are going to be in different places. The killer might have slightly harder time killing Kaylee than Maddie, because he's not even, you know, able to get as close to her without fighting her. But I don't know, this new level of details gives me pause for thought. So James says, does this change any of your thinking? It doesn't in terms of a profile of this killer. I still think this is hate motivated. I still think this is targeted. I think it could be targeted towards an individual, but equally likely, as I've talked about, I talked about it just today in my video, actually, that this is a perfect house for somebody to sneak up round the back, or walk up on, or drive up round the back, and have been stalking them unbeknownst to them. And like I talked about in my video today, go and watch it, that Kaylee talked about, well, it was talked that Kaylee had a stalker. The police have given some fairly ambiguous information about it. But we don't know, even if Kaylee did have a stalker, whether that was going to be relevant at all to the murders, or, you know, whether that was just somebody who took a liking to her and was annoying her a bit. We don't know. But it's quite possible, very, very possible, in my opinion, that that house was very private round the back, and somebody could have been watching that house, making a mental note of the people that live there, and be fueled by hatred of the type of people that they represent, not them personally, but the type of people that that person hates. So that doesn't change. And my thinking about the type of person the killer is, it possibly reinforces to me that it's somebody who is very familiar with using blades, very familiar with blood. So in terms of profile, no, it doesn't change the way I'm thinking. What it does, though, is it gives me pause for thought as to whether what we were originally told by the coroner wasn't correct. That they weren't all, I mean, she originally said they were all asleep. Well, that's clearly not true. And then Xana's dad came out and said that Xana fought back. She had defensive wounds. So, Sally, I think the killer was so manically berserk. He could have committed suicide. Hope the police are looking into recent death by his own hand. I don't know, you know. I don't know. When this case first came out, I didn't cover it for the first few days because I thought they're going to catch this person, because usually in a mass killing like this, the killer does take their own life. So that's clearly not the case, but they usually, in those kind of instances, usually it's gunshots that they shoot to kill, and then once they've killed, they turn the gun on themselves. But this is completely different. It's perfectly possible that they haven't been able to live with themselves and they've dispatched themselves. But I don't know, you know. I don't know. I think this is somebody who enjoyed what they did. And if they enjoyed what they did, they're a very, very dangerous person. But they're not going to dispatch themselves because they're not going to feel guilty. They're going to feel justified that they did a good job. And they're going to feel proud. And they're going to be watching all of this coverage. They'll be watching it all. And they're going to feel proud of it. But they're a very, very dangerous person. You're absolutely right, Scarlett. A hunter would know to slit the throat first. Next would be the lungs. Yeah. A hunter, somebody I talked about, maybe somebody who has worked dispatching animals. Now, that could be a hunter. It could be somebody who's worked in an abattoir as well. That they have no problems whatsoever with blood, with getting covered in blood, seeing fear. They're not concerned about it because they're so used to it, because they're used to doing that for their job. And there's no difference when it comes down to it. There's no difference between slitting the throat of a cow or a sheep or whatever and a human. When it comes down to it, the actual mechanics of it and the disgust that people usually have doing that and seeing that kind of injury and seeing that kind of blood loss. So it could be any number of people would have that knowledge of anatomy. Loads of people would have the knowledge of that anatomy, that if you slit the throat or you stab them in the lungs, they're not going anywhere and they're going to die quickly. But it's being able to go through with it and being able to doing that 4 times. And that's why somebody who works in an abattoir or somebody who is used to hunting, who's done that multiple times and can just do that like a robot, that's the kind of person that I'm feeling this person is. Thank you, Bobby Flint, for the $1.99. Thank you so much. And Bobby, $4.99. Same person. Thank you for the dancing avocado. Could be a fan of Jack the Ripper. Well, Jack the Ripper was never caught, so hopefully not. Well, could be a fan, but hopefully it doesn't turn out that way. I do think they'll catch this person. But here we have the grieving father paid for a copy of his daughter's death certificate, which included some of the details of her injuries. But he doesn't know whether his daughter or Maddie were the targets. I have my own suspicions, he said. So I don't know what that means, honestly. Connection to Hannah Cleo. I don't think so. I did look up her case. It was mentioned early on. I don't think so, but now I can't remember why I thought that. I'll look up Hannah Cleo again in a minute. We'll just get through this this piece. It's not that long. Birdie says, didn't they use a hunting knife? Well, this is what we've just been discussing, that it's a fixed blade K-bar style knife. That's the knife that has been kind of talked about, been put out there, but we don't really know whether this is a K-bar style knife, whether this is a machete style implement. It could be a sword even. We don't know. But I think the the autopsies, the way that they were, like the marks, the blood spatter and things like that, they'll have a good indication of what type of weapon it was, specifically what type of weapon it was, based on all of that information. There you go, Miss Wales. I remember my cousin used to work in an abattoir and I needed to give him his lunch. He came out with rubber high boots and a rubber apron on covered in blood. Oh my God, I was shocked he didn't care. Exactly. Because you have to tune out to it. You have to tune out to it. You can't do that job. You can't do that level of killing day in, day out. You know, seeing an alive animal with fear in its eyes and then dispatching it, chopping it up, you know, just, you can't. You can't. You have to tune out. You have to dissociate. That's why there's so much mental illness in abattoir workers. It's unbelievable. When you look into it, it's unbelievable what goes on. Exactly. My nephew is a butcher. He doesn't think twice. It's just work to him. Absolutely. So if you think about it, if it's that kind of person who does that kind of job and who's done that kind of job day in, day out, they're not bothered about blood. They're not bothered about fear. Team that with a person who has hatred towards certain individuals or certain types of individuals, then you've got a very dangerous person, somebody literally who can go in and behave like a robot, but at the same time be fueled by hate. You've got a very, very dangerous person there. And this person will do it again. I promise you, this person will do it again if they're not caught. Because for me, this person, my opinion, I'm caveating everything with what I'm saying with my opinion. This person enjoyed it. This person felt justified. This person is proud of what they did. And they'll still have that hatred. It won't have changed the way they view certain individuals. They'll just choose a new target and they'll do it again. This person needs to get off the streets. No, butchers don't kill the animals, no. But they chop them up. They're used to blood. They're used to blood. I think it's more likely to be if we're talking about somebody used to dispatching animals, then it's either a hunter. But don't hunters normally shoot these days? They don't have to get close to the animal these days. So an abattoir worker fits the bill for me. Is it very rare for one killer to murder so many at one time? Yeah, it's not the norm. Thankfully, it's not the norm. It's a case that's out of the norm on multiple levels. Which all the more reason why this person is a dangerous individual. Juju. Oh, my son used to work in a pork processing plant. Just the term processing plant. I mean, that is so clinical. The terminology that's used distances what goes on from the actual reality of it. He gave me a tour and I got sick. I'm a hardcore country girl and we butcher our own cows, pigs, chickens, etc. But the plant was so horrid. They are because it's not just killing one. It's many go through one after another. And you absolutely have to tune out and dissociate. You've no other choice. And mental illness is so high in abattoir workers. We say dispatch, then butcher. as in field dress, quarter, and process for refining cuts and packaging. Ugh. Guys, this is why I'm vegan. This is exactly why I'm vegan. But I'm not squeamish about blood or anything. I'm not. But I'm thinking of this from a psychological point of view. So hunters will dispatch, and they normally use a gun, don't they? This day and age, it's shooting. And then they'll go in the field and leave the offal in the field, unless saving for consumption. So in this situation, it's slightly different than that, isn't it? Because the actual dispatching was done with the blade, gun or bow hunting. So you're not getting close to the animal, because you can't. It's not like you can chase a deer. You can't run as fast as a deer, can you? You know, so you have to use a weapon from a distance. You know, it's not the cavemen days. Even then, they didn't get close. They used spears. Or dogs. The reason why early humans were able to eat meat was because the dogs helped them out. There was a symbiotic relationship between wolves and humans. They both got something out of it. But nowadays, so a hunter would still be used to using a blade once the animal was dead, using the blade, and not be scared of seeing the blood in a, the blood would still be warm. It would be in every which way the same as killing with a blade, in that the blood would still be warm. The animal would be very warm. But an abattoir worker, you're seeing the fear. You're seeing the whole, it's the death process. It's psychologically really quite different than anything else that humans have ever done throughout history. But whoever this person is, whether they are an abattoir worker or a hunter, I mean, hunting's big in Idaho, isn't it? At a beef plant, cows going alive. The hide comes out of the conveyor belt and nice. Nice. It's somebody, whoever it is, right? Whether it's a hunter, an abattoir worker, a butcher, somebody who's killed as part of military service, or whether it's somebody who's a military wannabe. And all of their experience has been done vicariously. Let's think about this. All of their fantasies, right? Their fantasies about killing has been done vicariously, as in they've watched videos, they've really tuned into this experience, and they're a wannabe. And then, fueled by hate, they've gone and done this. Whichever it is, whichever background this person has, at the end of the day, none of us knows. It's all speculation. I believe this person is incredibly dangerous. This is a quadruple murder that is outside of the norm. Multiple murders. You look up multiple murders. Murders, family murders, murders of mass murder. They're either done by strangulation, if it's family, strangulation, or shooting. And then mass murder, going shooting up a school, it's shooting. This is highly unusual. The targets, highly unusual. The circumstances, highly unusual. The weapon used, highly unusual, and the number of murders, unusual. Everything about it is unusual. Thank you, Tom N, for the $2. Professional murder for hire revenge basis. I don't think so. I don't think so, because a professional would have gone in and not left a mess. Because using a knife of any kind, you run a risk. You run a risk of being disarmed. You run a risk of cutting yourself and leaving a ton of DNA at the scene. A professional killer would have gone in with a gun and shot bang, 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 bang 4 times, 4 bullets to the head. That would be a professional murder, in my opinion. So if somebody had hired, you know, as form of revenge or whatever, they'd hired a hitman, the scene and the cause of death would be very different. They'd have used a gun, I promise you, because it's quick, it's easy, it's distant, it's at distance. The killer doesn't have to run the risk of getting transfer of DNA. You know, they go in with, you know, fully kitted out, gloves, mask, etc. With a gun, shoot 4 times. Very unlikely that they're going to get disarmed in the process, and they're not going to leave a trace in the house. So for that reason, I don't think this is a hired professional for revenge or any other purpose. Do you know what, Karen? I thought that. Tom, thanks for the $2. Link to the roommates they picked on. Again, I don't think this is a professional for revenge or anything. I really don't. I think if it was, it would be done with a gun. Karen says, this is intriguing. With all the recent shows on Netflix about serial killer enactments. Oops. Lost it now. Oh, it was a good comment as well. The chat jumped at a really inappropriate time. But basically, it jumped miles. Oh, there we go. I've got it. With all the recent shows on Netflix about serial killer reenactments, could this be a copycat? I certainly think that it could be a copycat. Not linking it to Netflix necessarily. I'm not blaming Netflix. I understand what you're saying though, because we've had Dharma, we've had the Gacy tapes. Those are the ones I've watched. There's probably others because I've been so engrossed in the Last Kingdom, and I've watched 5 series of it, 5 seasons of it, 10 episodes each, twice in the last month. My Netflix viewing has been very limited, so there might be new stuff out on Netflix that I haven't seen. But I do think this could be somebody who is a fan of serial killers. It's reminiscent of Bundy. It's the kind of thing Bundy would have done for a laugh. And Israel Keys. Do you know the guy Israel Keys? You heard of Israel Keys? He was, I did him on Crime Story Sunday. I think it was the 2nd episode I did of Crime Story Sunday, that series that I did on Michelle Walks. And I've not done an episode for ages on that, but I did Israel Keys, and looking into his life and his crimes, he was a serial killer that was so outside of the norm. That was the reason why he wasn't caught for years, because he planned a murder up to 2 years in advance, and he went all over the US. So they couldn't link him to any one area, and they couldn't link him to buying certain things that were used in the murders, any one place. And he'd literally buy stuff in one location, bury it in another location, wait 2 years, and then go and dig up this kill kit, as it was called, and then go and commit a murder. And he was so well controlled until right at the end when he got a bit lax, and that's how they caught him. But his hero was Ted Bundy. So even the most horrific serial killers who have their own characteristics, who have their own MO, sometimes have heroes. See, Israel Keys' crimes and Ted Bundy's crimes didn't look the same, but still, Israel Keys really admired Ted Bundy. So, yeah, could easily be somebody who admires a certain serial killer and wants to copycat them. And this is quite reminiscent of Bundy. So it's a good point, though. Very good point. Cecile, thank you for the $9.99. Is there any updates on Hoodie Guy's whereabouts? No, I don't know where Hoodie Guy is, but according to law enforcement, he has been ruled out. So there's that. I honestly don't think it's him. I don't know whether he's in Africa, as people have said. No idea. Okay, let's carry on with this. All right. So he has his suspicions. My daughter and Maddie were ambushed in their sleep and found in the same bed, according to the coroner. Gonsalves surmised that they died in Maddie's bedroom on the 3rd floor because there are photos of Kaylee's room with no blood on the bed. So he said, hasn't he, that they were sharing a bed. So that will be why. He added his investigators didn't obscure the windows in his daughter's room like they did for the other victims. And I'm wondering whether Murphy the dog was asleep in Kaylee's room. And that's why police have said that he was in another room. Bundy was a certified narcissist. Oh, Bundy was. Bundy was, Onigrands, a massive narcissist. Have you watched his trial? Oh, my word. My word. That's the definition of psychopathy is Ted Bundy. Although the coroner told Gonsalves that the victims died quickly and did not suffer, he said he's not convinced. You see, if this is true, if Fox News are reporting what he said faithfully and to the letter, what he said in a previous interview that they died quickly and did not suffer. So now he's not sure. So I don't know. So Canardle saw Xana, who had defensive wounds, and Ethan was found on the 2nd floor. It was a hell of a battle going on down there, from what the coroner told us. So that, if that's true, that gives a massive clue to what went on. Sweet Dreams, do I have a link to it? I think it's on Court TV. I don't know whether I've watched the whole trial or whether I've watched huge chunks of it, though. I don't think I've watched it from beginning to end. But I think it's on Court TV. I could be wrong. It could easily be on YouTube. I don't know whether you'd get it in one big, massive, long video. You'd have to go and look up the different days. Hold on. Please hold. I'm just going to look up Ted Bundy on Court TV. No, Court TV have the whole Jeffrey Dahmer. I've watched all of that. Ted Bundy. It's spelled Ted. Ted Bundy. Why not let me search? You weird thing. Oh, I don't know. Trial archives. Here we go. Trial collections. We'll look at it together. Shutting you out of what I'm looking at. So this is Court TV Trial Archives. They've got all sorts on here. Ugh. Ugh. Don't get me started about Charles Manson, Jeffrey Dahmer. I'm sure they've got Bundy. Why don't you put them in order? They're not in order at all. Oh, this is just Florida. Oh, they do it by state. Oh, that's annoying. What state was Ted Bundy tried in? Can't remember. Oh, that was a bizarre case as well. That was a bizarre case. Huh. Well, you've taken me down a rabbit hole and... oh, that one. Joel Guy. Oh, my word. No, Joel Guy. Do you know Joel Guy? I mean, this is bizarre. I did Joel Guy in a Crime Story Sunday as well. Miami, Florida. Okay. Oh, and then we've got Utah. I think it was Florida, weren't it? Was it not? Anyway, maybe Court TV don't have it, but Joel Guy, right? This guy chopped his parents up. So this guy had never worked a proper day in his life, but he was a trainee surgeon, which I thought was interesting. So he killed his parents and he chopped them up, and he put his mother's head in a pot on the stove, which was still on when the cops turned up. But he chopped them up, but hadn't really gone through with the entire getting rid of everything. So he'd never worked a proper day in his life, just this perpetual student who was clever, but didn't need to work very hard at his studies. And he decided to kill his parents, but had thought about, planned it all, thought about how he was going to do it, bought all the stuff. And then seemingly things got too hard for him and just left it all there. Go and watch it. Watch his trial. Or if you don't have the time, watch my Crime Stories Sunday episode about Joel Guy. Because what a bizarre man. And I've got some of the trial coverage in there. And he right, what got me is he sat through the entire thing, and the medical examiner gave a really, really detailed set of testimony about the bodies and everything that they discovered. And he sat there emotionless, except for smirks at certain times when they were discussing like certain injuries on his dad and certain injuries on his mother. He would smirk really openly, not even try to hide it. And he was a trainee surgeon, so he understood anatomy. He was just too lazy to do it properly and get rid of all the evidence. Very cold, very, very bizarre man. Yeah, Pottermouse, emotionless nutter. And Yeah. Yeah. So Bundy. I don't know whether Bundy's on here or not. But I'm going to look on YouTube. Bundy trial. Oh, Ted Bundy takes the stand. That's good. That's a good one. Ted Bundy being his own defender. That was a good one. That's good. And the judge said that if situations had been different, he'd have liked to work with him. I think the judge was actually secretly a little bit impressed with how clever he was. It's just that he used his intelligence in a completely the wrong way. Completely the wrong way. I'm sure there's a good chunk of Ted Bundy's trial on YouTube if you dig into it. I don't know if I've watched the entire trial though, and that could be why. Because maybe it's not available. I don't know. I could have sworn it was on Court TV. I could have sworn. Anyway, thank you, Miss Papa McGill, for the $4.99. I wonder if this was a murder against one, but he had to kill the others. Does that mean he will now go on to kill more? Good question. If he went in to kill one and he's done in his mind, done what he set out to do, maybe not. Maybe not. But if he's gone in as somebody who enjoyed killing and went in to commit an act of hatred against several individuals and planned that, that's very different. That's a very dangerous person because that hatred is still there and he'll just choose a new target. But if he went in to murder one and he'd done his job, in his mind, he's done what he set out to do, maybe not, until he finds someone else who displeases him so much that he feels he has to kill him. So whichever way it works out, that person needs to be taken off the streets ASAP, because we don't know if that person doesn't have someone else already in their sights that they dislike so much that they're going to kill him. I mean, it'd be absolutely, totally foolish, just would lead the cops right to him if he did it in the same area within the next few months whilst the investigation's ongoing. But who knows? Maybe the others did get in the way, though. Maybe the others did get in the way. Patty Girl, please do a study on the influence of the mothers in these cases. Joel Guy, Chris Watts, Chad Holderson, Scott Peterson. Okay. All right. Joel Guy had a mother that doted on him. Like, he couldn't do no wrong in her eyes. Chris Watts, very peculiar. Chad Holderton and Scott Peterson, I've never looked into their backgrounds, to be honest. So anyway, let's get on with this article. So, Xana, who had defensive wounds, and Ethan were found on the second floor. It was a hell of a battle going on down there from what the coroner told us. But when reached by phone, so this is the coroner, Mabut said, declined to comment on the information she disclosed to Gonsalves. The coroner told him the perpetrator was a strong individual, but police have yet to identify the suspect's gender. So it's still possible this is a female. I've said from day one, I think this is a male. However, it's possible. I got outraged by them not just coming out and saying this was a woman or a man, because they should know by the amount of strength it took to deliver the injuries, he said. They're just being cowards. There are girls walking around the street right now that deserve to know. They should be looking out for a sadistic male. So he believes it's a male, but he's got his suspicions about who it might be, or like he said up here. And again, this is just if they are quoting him faithfully, truthfully. He doesn't know whether his daughter or Maddie were the targets. I have my own suspicions, he said. So he has his own suspicions. And his suspicions are that this is a male and this is a sadistic male. Now, he could be completely wrong. But I think they would be able to make some level of assessment as to the strength that was used. However, if this was using a slashing implement like a machete or a long knife, and this was gouges, slashes rather than stabs, well, slashing doesn't take as much strength as stabbing. Slashing someone's throat doesn't take hardly any strength, unless they're going to fight you back. Now, the thing up here is incredibly, in my opinion, incredibly important detail. It was a hell of a battle going on down there from what the coroner told us. So did this killer go upstairs first? My opinion, just speculation. Did the killer go upstairs first? Maddie was asleep, dispatched her very quickly. Kaylee woke up, put up a bit of a fight, but he was able to subdue her and kill her. Went downstairs. By this time, Ethan and Xana were awake. And then the killer had to get rid of Ethan and Xana because they were going to fight him. If that's the case, this quote here, it was a hell of a battle going on down there from what the coroner told us, tells us a lot. That Ethan is a big, strong guy, Ethan, sports player. Doesn't mean to say that he's going to be a great fighter, but he's going to have some strength. And then Xana, so the killer was able to fight two people who put up one hell of a battle and still stab them both to death. So their injuries are going to be considerably different from Maddie and Kaylee's. So what we want to know, what we really need to know is how different Maddie's and Kaylee's injuries were to Ethan and Xana's. Karen says, wouldn't they know by now if the killer was right or left-handed? Yeah, maybe, but maybe not, because certainly with a sword, you use both hands. Well, not necessarily, but you can use both hands. Like certain strikes on a sword, you're using both hands. I'm doing sword moves as I speak. So you're using both hands, and you can come in from the right or come in from the left. And then some moves you will use your dominant hand. But with if they were stab, or slash, they might not. They'd know the direction, but you might use multiple directions. So they might not necessarily know whether it was someone using their left hand or the right hand. And also, not everybody will use the dominant hand for certain things. I'm going to talk about that, Birdie. I've got that up. Buglove, you deleted it. You deleted it. I was just going to talk about it. What did you delete it for? Hold on. I'm going to view it. Zavgirl's video, we're supposed to hear a scream. I can't hear it. I tried 12 times. I think I hear a piercing sound, but there's so much static. Yes. I'm going to talk about that because I talked about it in my video this morning. And before I sign off here, I wanted to get through this first and then just go on to that quite quickly because I can't hear it either. I think I hear something, but I don't think it's a scream. But I've got it up in the background. I'm going to talk about that. So we're nearly at the end of this anyway. So he's called them cowards. Police said in a statement that they will not comment or release specific details of the crime. It is what we must do to preserve the integrity of the investigation, said Robbie Johnson, Public Information Officer for the Moscow Police Department. We want more than an arrest. We want justice. It takes time to do it. Johnson said police are encouraging good safety practices in general and are not focusing on specific threat to the community. That's wrong. That's wrong. There is a threat. There is a threat to the community. There absolutely is a threat to the community, unless the police know a lot more than what they're saying and they have a particular target in mind and they're surveilling them. Anything other than that, then there is a threat to this community. I think that the killer would be incredibly foolish to try anything in that community right now, while the entire scrutiny of the FBI and the Idaho State Police are on Moscow, Idaho. They'd be incredibly stupid, but stranger things have happened. So, yeah, Moscow, Idaho might be realistically safe right now because only the most stupid criminal will go ahead and commit another murder. But things do happen. Stupid things do happen. Criminals do stupid things. So unless this person is being surveilled, then there is still a threat to the community. I mean, just the other day, the police chief spoke, and because it was the graduation, about being safe. So there is a risk. I'll play it you in a minute. The University of Idaho commencement ceremony held on Saturday was somber rather than celebratory, as the mysterious murders continue to cast a shadow over the small town. A moment of silence was held for the victims, two of whom were slated to graduate. I thought that they would have, because we do this in the UK, I thought they would have given them their honours. There's a term for it. Is it posthumously? I might have got the wrong term. But I know I've sat in graduations because I used to be a lecturer at university. I worked for over 20 years. I've been to a lot of graduation ceremonies, and a couple of occasions there's been students who've died, not in an horrific way like this, but students who've died and who have been who essentially have graduated thank you, Letitia. Posthumous. Posthumous. I knew there was a word for it. And you know, in those instances, a family member, like the mother, dad, wife, etc., will go up and receive their award on behalf of them. So I thought that they might do that, but apparently they didn't. But maybe they don't do that at that university. Sarah, do I know about the picture through the window of Kaylee in a black bra? No, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. But there's so much come out. Most of it is not true. So I don't know. I've not heard of that personally. Anyone with information is asked to call the tip line at 208-883-7180. Email tipline@ci.moscow.id.us, or digital media can be submitted to fbi.gov/Moscow, Idaho. And it was Audrey Conklin who contributed to this report. So that's the journalist that wrote this. So this is big news. This is, if it's true, this is big. This is big, in my opinion. I understand why the police can't give any details. I understand, absolutely understand that they've got to maintain the integrity of the investigation. I've questioned whether Steve is doing the right thing when he's giving such details out. But I understand as a parent, he wants answers and he's trying to force the police. He's trying to force the hand. So I don't blame him. I just think that maybe there's certain things that shouldn't come out right now. But given that it's out there, this is big. This is really big. So this is something that we really need to really think about and factor in. Yeah, he is. He's grieving. He's angry. Yeah, he is. He really is. But what did I say I was going to show you just now? What did I say I was going to show you? The body cam. I'm going to talk about the body cam, but there was something else I just said I'll do that in a minute. Can I give a brief summary of the big points? A brief summary of what? What about the handprint inside edition showed? Yeah, I do think there was a handprint on the door. Yeah, it does look like there's a handprint on one of the doors or one of the windows. Letitia, you're right. Xana's dad, he did say that. He did say she fought back. He said that very, very early on as well. Yeah, there was a handprint. Yeah. It does. That's what it looks like. It does look like a handprint on one of the doors. Now, whether that was one of the victims' handprints or whether that was the killer's handprint as they were leaving. But there's going to be loads. If this is true, and we've now got two sources from this, because Xana's dad very early on said that Xana fought back. Because people were saying, well, the coroner said that they died in their sleep. But Xana's dad said, no, she put up a fight. Juju Beans, thanks for the 4.99. Where did I find the article? This article, it's Fox News, foxnews.com. I'll link it in the chat. And I can put it, I'll put my sources, all my sources in the description box, as I always do, after the live is finished. There you go. That's the article. So it was a hell of a battle going on down there. So we've now got Xana's dad, who said they fought back. Oh, Juju Beans, was that your first super chat? Oh, thank you. Thank you that you chose me to be your first super chat recipient. It's very kind of you. And now we've got Kaylee's dad saying that the coroner told him that it was one hell of a battle going on down there. That coroner is a bit loose-lipped, I have to tell you. That coroner is a bit loose-lipped. You know, telling someone else's dad that another two people who weren't your kid, weren't your next of kin, that they fought, and to the extent of one hell of a battle. So there's going to be handprints all over the place. There's going to be handprints all over the place. But it doesn't mean to say that if that's the killer's handprint, that they'll have got a fingerprints, a handprint, an actual handprint. Because I would imagine that if they had any sense about them, they'd be wearing gloves. Now, would they be able to get fibers off that? Yes. Because if the killer's hand, so a gloved hand covered in blood, and they touched something, there'd be fibers from the glove, unless it was something like a rubber glove, and then obviously it wouldn't leave fibers. If they fought in hand-to-hand combat, I would think the killer's DNA is someplace. How long do they process that big of a scene? Well, it's still classified as a crime scene, but the other day, I talked about this in a video as well, there was 5 guys that turned up in normal clothes, like not kitted out. They didn't put booties on or suits on or anything like that. They walked in. A News Nation reporter, Nancy Liu, saw them and publicized this, and I talked about it in a video. And 5 guys, they spent about half an hour going around the rooms. She could see them through the windows, and then they left, and they wouldn't answer any questions. And there's a speculation that they're investigators. I think they're FBI. I think they will be, because interestingly, 5 new personnel were added to the FBI. You know, every day they publish the amount of agents and officers working on the case. The FBI tally went up kind of that day or the day before. So I think they're new investigators from the FBI. And I think they're specifically FBI agents who are analyzing the data that has come from the house. So that there will be FBI agents, so not lab workers, they'll be FBI agents, but they'll be analysing the physical and forensic evidence that came from the scene. And I think they've probably never been to the scene before, and they just wanted to look at it, you know, get the lie of the land. And it's obviously easier to look at a room and get a really good feel for it, as opposed to seeing it on pictures or diagrams or even videos. So that's what I think they were doing there. I don't know whether that answers your question. I don't even know what I was talking about then, but anyway. But if there was a hell of a battle, that's going to be a mess. That is going to be a mess. A mess. I do. SJ Cars. I think the girls were killed first. So Kaylee and Maddie, because Anna's a girl as well, but Kaylee and Maddie, and then Xana and Ethan woke up. I think that's what happened, yeah. Or alternatively, Ethan and Xana were already awake, heard someone coming in, went out, and then they put up one hell of a battle. But the killer had to go through them to get upstairs. But I don't think that that's what happened. I don't think that's what happened. I think Maddie was asleep. My opinion, speculation alert. Maddie was asleep. That's why her injuries were different than Kaylee's. Kaylee woke up. Kaylee fought a little bit, was able to fight a little bit, but succumbed. Killer went downstairs, encountered Ethan and Xana, put up a fight. They put up a massive fight, and that made the killer leave. And I think the killer did not go downstairs to the first floor because of what happened on the second floor, and probably didn't have it in him to fight another 2 people. So think about that. And that might be why the killer didn't go downstairs. It's all speculation. It's all speculation. And, you know, we might be wrong, but it's plausible. It's plausible. I remembered what I was going to look up. I was going to look up Hannah Cleo. And then I'll talk about the scream, and then I'm going to let you go. I haven't had my tea yet. Hannah Cleo. Oh, I see why people are talking about this now. Because right at the... What's up, Cass? Cass is here. What's up? What's up? I'm busy. I'm busy. You'll have to wait if you want to wait. I won't be long. Yeah, I looked up Hannah Cleo very early on in the case, because she's another University of Idaho student who died like recently, but it's not connected because she took her own life. But now it's come out, and this is only a speculation, that she was Maddie's ex-roommate who ended her life after being bullied. Online sleuths have independently investigated the Idaho murder case and have devised several theories about why someone was out to kill the victims. And there's this speculation that she was Kaylee's roommate at one point. So a hypothesis recently circulated on Twitter that one of the victims in a Idaho murder case was a bully, and their actions had caused a former roommate to take her own life. So a Twitter user claimed the quadruple homicide is connected to Hannah Cleo, who was supposedly an ex-roommate and shared her dorm room with one of the Idaho victims, as per the claims made in the tweet. They bullied and harassed Cleo, who was eventually took her own life in February 2022. I don't know. This is something that's on Twitter. I don't know. I really don't know. I really don't know that there's any truth to it whatsoever. You know, Hannah Cleo was a University of Idaho student who died. Her name came up early on in the case. I dismissed it because it just wasn't in any way, it seemed connected. And I just wonder whether this is just speculation, and it's stuff that the media pick up on, you know, because yeah, they can talk about it because that's what's being discussed out there in the world. But I don't know. And again, I don't know whether this was, I haven't seen Hannah Cleo's autopsy report. You know, we don't know what evidence there is. Is there actual evidence, or is this just a Twitter rumor? Is there independently verified sources out there that showed that Hannah Cleo was actually bullied by Maddie? And even if she was bullied by Maddie, does that have any connection to these murders? Probably not, quite frankly. So I don't know. Right, let's turn to this scream. I mentioned this in my video this morning, that Zav Girl had made a video. Others probably have as well, but it was Zav Girl's that I saw. That there's a scream it's at 3:12 a.m. Now, the full body cam footage has been now released. Zavgirl got her own copy, but this has been released to the general media. So I'm accessing this from the Law and Crime Network. I'll put a link to this. I'll put it in the chat if you want to go and watch this yourself, and I'll put it in the description box after this live. So this is Law and Crime Network. So this has been released. So there's 2 body cams. One officer, the other another officer, obviously. So there's 2 sets of body cam footage, each of about 20 minutes, that went to the same incident. So you see virtually the same thing twice, just from slightly 2 different perspectives. And at some point you see one of the officers going into their vehicle and they're checking stuff out, and then they go back to the scene. So the body cam footage that we've all talked about, well, I talked about and others have talked about, is a small section that was released that shows them walking across that field next to the Sigma Chi house. It's called Bandfield, and that goes on to Taylor Road, and then Taylor Road then is only a stone's throw away from the murder house. You just go up this little alleyway and you're there. So apparently at 3:12, this is towards the end of the interaction, you hear something, and it's being characterized as a scream. I can't see this as a scream. And in the video that I made this morning, I said, if this was a scream, yeah, on the actual police body cam, and we'll play it in a minute. But look, as I said this morning, I don't think that this is the scream of someone being stabbed. The reason being is there was 3 guys, right, look. There's 3 guys. These are the 3 guys that were picked up for underage drinking. They got citations. And there's 2 officers. So there's 5 people stood on Taylor Road, which is a stone's throw away from the murder house. So let me just get the map up a second or two. I'll just show you on the map how close it is. It's like so close. I put the map in my video this morning, but while we're here, we might as well do it. So look at this. Hold on, get rid of Twitter. I've got too many windows open now. All right, so this is Taylor Road here. Right, this is the murder house. I hate calling it that, but I don't know what else to call it. All right, this is the house where they died, where they were murdered. So this is the front of the house here. I know the address is King Road, but King Road's to the back, and then Queen Road's to the front. And then you go up this little ginnel. We call it a ginnel here in the north of England. I don't know what you call it, like a little alleyway, like a little run through between the apartments. And this is Taylor Avenue, right? This is where they were on the police body cam. They were stood right here in front of these apartments. So it's literally yards, you know, as the crow flies, because sound waves carry in straight lines. They don't have to go via the road. It's yards away. So it's very, very close. So you're telling me that 5 people stood yards away from this house, from which there was a blood-curdling scream of someone being murdered, and none of them responded. None of them even turned round. I can't see it myself. So I'm going to play it on both of their body cams, because I don't know, one of the cameras, the mic might be better than the other. So I'm going to play it on both. Zavgirl put both audios on top of each other. So, and then tried to get rid of the background noise. And I don't think that helped, in my opinion. Right, in my opinion. But people might have sharper hearing than me and have heard stuff. And maybe if you listen to it with headphones on, maybe it's clearer. I don't know. But I'll play it on both. So it's at 3:12. It's actually almost 3:13. So we'll play it from here. So listen. I'll turn it up as high as I can. All I can hear is background noise and then something like very small that people are characterizing as a scream. You tried headphones and still couldn't make it out. Thank you, Birdie. Okay, right. Let's play it. So I'll play it from, so it's 3:12 and 10 seconds right now. So it's almost at the 3:13 mark, but we'll play it. So this is body cam 1. So as I said, there's 2 20-minute segments or thereabouts, 2 officers at the same scene, each one of them with a body cam on, and obviously that body cam has a microphone. So playing Officer 1 first.
All they did, Brian goes staggering around the middle of the roadway, you know, afterwards. So, not saying you're a bad person or anything, but there's a way to do it, obviously, and there's a way to do it. No, obviously. Hold on.
That's audio off on the body cam. They're obviously.
Back, sign, okay. So instructions in the back.
Did you hear anything? Did you hear anything? Neither did I. Ah, the 4 heads running. No, the 4 heads running are just in the. They're in the parking lot of the apartments. So they could have come from anywhere. They're not running, they're walking. They're walking. They're not running. And they could be from anywhere, just coming out of the apartments. So I don't think that. This is a busy area, remember. This is very built up. Look, this is a busy area. So the fact that there's 4 people, this is the parking lot of the apartments. The officers and the we're right here on Taylor Avenue, right in front of these apartments, and there's this parking lot. So these 4 people have come from this parking lot. So have they come from the murder house? Maybe, but no. Right, if they've come, look, guys, if they've come from a scene where 4 people have been gouged to death, according to Steve Gonsalves, they were gouged to death. The amount of blood at the scene must have been horrific. Do you think that 4 people who've just committed a mass murder under those circumstances would walk past 2 police officers? Or do you think they'd just turn tail and walk the other way? Because surely they'd have blood on them. Let's just think about it. Does it make sense? No, it doesn't make sense. Those 4 people could be going anywhere, be anybody. They look like students to me. They look like young people, students. I've seen the foreheads. I don't think anything of it. Right, we're going to play the next body cam now. So it's the same, exactly the same incident, just Officer 2's body cam. So we'll play it from the same place. So we're going to do it from there. 3:12. So 3:12 in the morning. Cassie's chewing my chair again. So if you hear chewing sounds, Michelle's getting annoyed. I'm not getting annoyed. I'm just asking people to just apply a bit of common sense. The 4 guys, girls, whoever they were, they look like guys walking by, are not the murderers. They're not the murderers. They wouldn't have walked onto Taylor Avenue in full view of 2 police officers who are currently apprehending 3 young men. It wouldn't be done. It wouldn't have done it. Come on, would you? Right, if you'd committed murder of 4 people and you wanted to get away without being spotted, would you walk onto a busy street? Taylor Avenue is a busy street. It's like the main road running through that area. When, you know, it's one of the main roads. It's not a little cul-de-sac like some of these. This is a main thoroughfare. There's 2 police officers there. There's a police car. They're going to be covered in blood. There's no way that killer would have got away with no blood on him. Unless he's gone fully suited up with, you know, PPE and took it off. But then where is it? He's not left it at the scene, or else it would have been found. So I don't know, guys, just some common sense. All right, so let's play it from here. So this is body cam 2, officer 2.
Wait, 177. Hair color? Blonde. Eye color? Blue.
Just taking some details here. So I vaguely heard a tiny weeny noise then that people are characterizing as a scream. Did you catch it? It was at 12 minutes and 45 seconds. It's not a scream. It could be anything. It could be it's not a scream. It's not a scream. Listen, right, it's at 45, so it's in 10 seconds time. Right, Cassie, stop it. Did you hear it? It's not a scream. It could be, it's anything. Background noise. I wonder whether the body cams picked up. It sounds like it could be a car screeching. It's not a scream. And if there's something tiny, there is something there. It's not a scream. It's not a scream. I can't hear it at all on the first body cam at all. I hear it on the second one. It's tiny. It's not a scream. No one turned round. They carried on just talking. Let's just play it through. They carried on talking. Nobody even paused. The officer didn't even pause. So if that was a scream in real time coming from a house that was so close, the officers would have gone and checked it out, I'm sure. They'd have heard it. There'd have been something, a pause, or what was that? Did you hear that? There'd be something on the body cam that would signify that a scream was heard. And I can guarantee 100% that this body cam would not have been released if there was any possibility that the murderer was captured on it, so the 4 heads, or there was a scream on it. There would be no way that the police would have at all released this. I understand people want to sleuth, and I understand, you know, no stone left unturned and all of that stuff, but it could well be, Rach. No scream sounds like background metal clipboard from writing ticket paperwork. It could well be because the other officer had a clipboard or something. If you look at the other officer, so you can see him on this guy. So this is officer 1. No, this is Officer 2, sorry, because we're on Officer 1's body cam. And he's writing. He's got something. It could well be his clipboard. It could have been putting his pen back. I don't know. It's not a scream. Right, just play it. We'll just play it one more time from Officer 1's body cam. Right, and this officer here does not turn round. There's nothing at all. Watch this. Do you know what it could be? Do you know what it could be? It could be that. Because it's not picked up on his body cam, because what we're hearing is that sound. Right? But on the other person's body cam, so his body cam, it's picked up. Like this, whatever this is. I don't know. It could be anything. But it's not a scream. It's not a scream. Timestamp is 3:12 a.m. and 45 seconds. That's when this alleged scream takes place. So I have linked this in the chat, but I'll link it again for anybody who wants to go and listen to it with multiple sets of headphones. And I think rather than arguing what it might be, because it could literally be anything, I think we just have to apply some common sense that if this was a scream, then the officers would have paused what they were doing just to listen for a second. They would have paused, said, what was that? And if there was any indication whatsoever that anything had been captured that's relevant to the murders, like a scream or potential suspects, there's no way this body cam would have been released, in my opinion. That's just common sense. So I don't know what else to tell you. It's a party town, exactly. Could be somebody laughing. I said in my video this morning that it could just be generic background noise that everybody tunes out because it's a busy town. CODIS, I'm assuming by CODIS you mean CODIS. It's the DNA, the police DNA system. So if you've committed an offence and you get your DNA taken, it's loaded into CODIS and it stays there forever. So, yeah, they have to give DNA. They have to give DNA. They don't have a choice. All right. Is anyone else buffering? I'm not on my other screen, but could be. My internet is pretty rubbish, I've got to say. So that's going to be it. I'm going to check just to see if the updates come through before we go. If there's been another update. No, there hasn't been. Not on Facebook anyway. So the latest was from September the 10th. And that was the police chief. As always, we want to remind the public to stay vigilant, travel in groups, and communicate with family and friends as you travel. If you have any information regarding the case, and then they gave the tip line details. So they obviously think there's some threat to the community, or else they wouldn't have said that, would they? I'll just check Twitter to see if there's anything breaking news before I sign off. Let's have a look. I think everybody's just talking about this new info. Still nothing new in Moscow. Oh, okay. Let's play this. So this has come out on Moscow Police's YouTube channel. So, well, that was pretty pointless, wasn't it? Still nothing new in Moscow, Idaho. It's on YouTube. All right, got it. Right, I'm glad I checked. So it's not on their Facebook, it's on their YouTube. All right, let's just play this, and then I'm going to sign off. I'm actually going to play it on... I'm going to do it this way. No, actually, I'm not. Because Cassie's bugging me. I think she wants a wee, but I was going to play it on mute so that I could just go and let her out. But I want to listen to it. It's a new update. The Moscow police have given a new update just right now. It's just come out right now. But people on Twitter are saying it's nothing new. Okay, right. Let's listen to this.
Good morning. My name is Roger Lanier. I'm a captain with the Moscow Police Department. I'm in charge of the operations division. And today is December 12th, Monday. And I want to give you an update on the King Road homicide investigations, at least the information that we have to this point. Over the weekend, investigators still continued to sort through numerous tips, calls, and online tips in regard to this investigation. There's been a lot of questions about the white car that we've been interested in. We're looking for that car because we believe through our investigation that that car was in the area during the time of the murders. And we also believe that the occupant or occupants may have seen something. They may not know they have seen something. So we specifically want to talk to them, and we want to know who they are and what they might know or might be able to contribute to the investigation. Over the weekend, investigators have sorted through and prioritized numerous tips. Some are tips that came in earlier and we've been working on. Other tips are new and are relevant. It's overwhelming sometimes with the amount of information that comes in on these tip lines. So our analysts have spent hours sorting through and trying to come up with the most relevant tips first for the investigators to follow up on. They have re-interviewed some of the folks we've interviewed earlier in this investigation to clarify information. Sometimes when new information comes forward, the people that we've spoken to beforehand may have new insight on that. So it does often seem like we're backtracking, but we're really just trying to get the most important details and the best timeline that we can come up with. We have literally an army of analysts who have been sorting through videos that have been submitted through the FBI.gov Moscow upload site. Those videos are from all over town, the gas stations, and specifically the area around King Road. We've been trying to use those videos to garner new information. As you can imagine, there's hours and hours and hours of videos, so it does take a lot of time. I want to talk a minute about safety. There's been a lot of speculation about what is the safety to the public right now, or the risk to the public right now. I would just like to add that we should always be vigilant. Certainly we should be vigilant now, but we should make that a way of life for us. We should always be walking with our head up, sticking to lighted paths, and walking in groups if we can. And in addition, letting people know when you've arrived home if you have not made prior arrangements. This is not an indication of a specific elevated risk, but something that we should be vigilant with just in our daily lives. I want to let everybody know that we are still 100% committed to solving this crime. There's a lot of information to sort through, and the information keeps coming in. And not all of the information is relevant, but you don't know if a tip is valid until you take the time to examine that tip and see how it relates to other information that you might have. We have teams in Moscow, Salt Lake City, and in Virginia, as well as other locations across the country. And we're prepared to do interviews and follow up on information at any point, anywhere. The ISP and FBI investigators, along with the Moscow Police Department investigators, includes dozens of analysts, tip line operators, and others, and they're working around the clock, 7 days a week to sort through the volumes of information. MPD has detectives, support personnel, and a communications team to try to keep everything together, but it is still a daunting task. The FBI Their investigators are ready at a moment's notice at any place in the country to go conduct an interview should the tips and leads take us there. And the Idaho State Police has, besides working on the investigation, had several uniformed troopers in the area to help with safety concerns around the city and on the University of Idaho campus. And just a quick reminder, please stick to official news releases for information. Tracking down rumors and quelling rumors about specific individuals or specific events that may or may not have happened is a huge distraction for investigators, and oftentimes is the result of social media propagation. And it is very, very frustrating to investigators and hard to stay on track. Finally, I just want to add that we do have a lot of information, and we are specifically keeping that information safe. We're not releasing specific details because we do not want to compromise this investigation. It's what we must do. We owe that to the families, and we owe that to the victims. We want more than just an arrest. We want a conviction. We owe that justice to Xana, Kaylee, Madison, and Ethan. And finally, I would just like to remind anybody with information, you can call the tip line at 208-883-7180. And that is directly to the tip line office in the FBI. There's been some frustration about having to wade through the tip line, but remember, this is not the only investigation in the country. So please be patient. We want that information. Anything could break this open for us. And then also the email tip line is tipline@ci.moscow.id.us. Thank you for your continued patience in this investigation.
Okay. No, nothing new. I understand that, you know, that they are going to be working on many things, going through just the hours and hours and hours of surveillance footage. You know, if they're pulling, because they'll have to pull off several hours of footage from as many businesses and cameras as they can to see whether they can track particular vehicles. It's not as straightforward as it seems, but I understand that there will be evidence that they have that they can't release. And you know, it's unfortunate for those of us who want that information right now. We can't have it right now. I understand how angry Steve Gonsalves is. I understand that. But there's stuff that they know that they can't tell the families, most likely. So no, there was nothing new in this update. I'm glad that they are doing regular updates though. But I don't know what else to say, to be honest. But the biggest news for today came from what Kaylee's dad has allegedly said about the injuries. That's big. That's big in my opinion. So I don't know. I don't know what else to say. So I think I'll sign off, given that I don't know what else to say. But I don't think there was a scream at 3:12. I really don't think there was a scream at 3:12, just common sense. I don't think that 4 people who were seen walking by were the murderers who walked by at whatever time while the officers were stood there. I don't think they're the murderers. I think they know more about the Hyundai Elantra than they're letting on. And that scene, that death scene, I think probably was more gruesome than they've told us. I think it must have been horrific in there. So there you go. All right, I'm going to sign off. So, Cassie, what have you got now? when she gets ignored, she starts finding stuff to play with. I'm going to go and let her out. She's getting impatient. All right, guys. Thank you for being respectful in the chat. Thank you to the moderators. Thank you so much for the people who super chatted and super stickered. That's very kind of you. And I'll see you very soon. Cassie's trying to climb on my knee now. All right. Bye, guys.